Hello and welcome to Pivotal People. Today we're going to be speaking to Jade Kent. Jade is a senior associate at Scown Solicitors. Hi Jade, thank you so much for joining us at Pivotal People. We've been looking forward to seeing you for a while.
You're very welcome.
Tell us a little bit first of all about what you're doing now.
Sure. So I'm a senior associate at Scown Solicitors, and my day-to-day work is in the corporate team. So buying, selling businesses, reorganising them, working on their governance structures, things like succession planning with a particular focus on healthcare.
Women at your level, I'm always interested to know what has got you from a young girl to where you are now, at a level that a lot of people would want to be. So can you take me back to your childhood and tell me a little bit about your childhood and how that possibly gave you the inspiration to want to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So quite a vivid memory for me is way back at school. Something that I wasn't great at maths, and I recognised that, but I had a teacher that said, you know, if you put the effort in and you do all the extra practice, you can get through. And I always remembered that, and he supported me all the way through. And then when I got my GCSE grade for maths, I was absolutely thrilled to get a high grade. Brilliant. And I don't think I could have done it without him. So only a small part in my life, but I always remember that. I always remember that he was there.
Yeah.
And then in my family, my grandma is a really big inspiration for me. We're very similar. She was a banker rather than a solicitor.
Wow.
But she travelled all around. Whenever I come to London, she always says, "Oh, well, I've been there. I did a meeting there." She's kind of lived the life that I'm living now 30 years ago. Yeah. So she's a real inspiration for me, and did it all as a single parent, which is amazing.
Wow. And that would have been harder for her.
Yeah.
In those days, we've got. Things are a little bit easier for a woman to grow and develop in a career now, and I think it's still hopefully getting easier. But for your grandma, in 30 years ago, that would have been a lot more challenging.
Yeah. I think she was one of few that rose up the ranks in the bank, and it wasn't known for a woman to do that at that time. So she's always been kind of a guiding force for me.
Great inspiration to have somebody like that in the family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she means a lot.
And then you left school and went to university?
Yeah, left school, did a little bit of travelling, and then went to university. Did a law degree, and then off on my training and straight through. I'd never had a gap year, but I've always tried to squeeze as much travel as I can into the various holidays, etc.
Yeah, a lot of the lawyers that we've spoken to, you obviously went straight into law.
Yes.
A lot of the lawyers that we speak to have sort of tried something and then gone into law.
Yeah.
You had that direction right from day one, and you focused on getting into law and doing what you're doing now, which is really interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. I'm quite a determined person, and if I put my mind to something, I make sure that I do it, however I get there. Tell
me a little bit about how you got into being a solicitor and what pointed you in that direction.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a solicitor for a really long time now. When I did work experience when I was 14 at school, that's what I did. And then I just stuck to my guns and went all the way through. In particular with care, when I was doing my training, I was very lucky to go up to the Royal Courts of Justice and work on a breach of contract case which involved a care home. Oh. So that was my first insight into social care.
What was it in your background that pointed you towards being a solicitor? What was it right at the beginning?
I think I've always been a very organised person. I like a project and a start, beginning, end, and anything that happens in the middle, and a solicitor kind of fitted that remit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when you're little, you think of all the professional careers, and it's something that I thought was quite stable for me and something almost like a challenge to aim for too.
Yeah, and I think going forward, getting into care and our regulations and the way that care we are now very heavily regulated. It's quite new. We haven't been, in my lifetime, the regulations happened within my lifetime, so it's not that new because I'm not that old. And I think that can be quite complex sometimes. And how do you get around being the solicitor and being that organised, structured person around the the emotional stuff that we do in care, and those, you know, I know providers that go through awful times that rely on people like you to get them through them. How do you face that sort of challenge?
I often describe it to people, it's a bit cliche, but as a roller coaster. It will have ups, downs, around the middle. They will throw curveballs at you and you never really know what's going to happen. So you can have a vague plan, but you've got to be prepared to be flexible and move stuff around and react to people. I tell this story, but it's a really good example of my role with my clients. Particularly when you sell a business, it's very, very intense for 3-4 months when you're on the phone to people every single day, going through every single part of their business. You know them inside out by the end of it. And I had one client that rang me and said the day before she was due to sell her big care portfolio, "I'm not sure if I want to do it, Jade. This is my baby, I've worked on it for 20 years, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know if I can let it go."
Oh my goodness.
She did, she sold it the next day, but having that wobble, it's actually really nice for her to ring me and say that, and I felt like almost like a trusted advisor, and I know it sounds cliche, but I like that bit of my job because you can really help people through often dark times for them because they'd have wobbles or they're not sure if they're doing the right thing.
And a care business isn't just a business.
No, not at all.
You know, it's almost like the same thing of a house isn't a house, it's sometimes a home. Well, certainly somebody who owns the providers are really emotionally involved in what they do, in the residents, in the families, in the staff teams, and it must be incredibly difficult to sell a business.
Yeah, it is. I've had lots of people that have had wobbles. I've had lots of people at the beginning of a process where they won't settle until they found the right buyer. They don't want to just go to the highest price or any old person. It has to be the right buyer for their baby, essentially. Are
you seeing a lot more or more sales? Are you seeing a lot more people selling? Yeah,
the market is buoyant at the moment. It does go up and down. It went a little bit slow before the budget because people were waiting to see what would happen. Obviously COVID, it was quiet because they had other things to do. A lot of people got through the COVID period and then thought, I've done my time now I want to retire and I want to get out. So we definitely had a spike of sales after we got through the worst of the COVID.
Yeah. Are you finding people selling because of the recent budget and the challenges that they're facing financially?
We haven't seen that come through yet because I think it's still a little bit new. There's definitely, the deals have been slower to go through. Okay. I think funding is harder to find, which means the whole process would usually take, say, 3-4 months. It's taking much longer because the funding is a harder hurdle to climb.
Yeah. When people that are living in care homes and their families really don't see that stuff.
Not at all. They don't know often.
Yeah, and actually it has to be the last minute. It has to be done like that, and that's quite challenging. I know we've gone into homes that have been sold as the nominated individual, and found it's always really difficult for the staff. It may be only the manager that knows it's happening, and then that manager's got to deal with that transition to a new provider. So are you involved at that stage as well when they're actually transitioning?
Yeah, sometimes if we act for a buyer, we quite often will just have that client for many, many years. So we will see them go in, we'll see them buy, and then we'll support them with other things. For example, if they need to, I don't know, revamp some contracts or they need some bit of support on the regulatory, we'll do that as well.
Yeah. So how have you found the CQC challenges lately?
I'd say our clients have found it quite interesting. I still think nobody really knows exactly what's going on. It's still very fluid. The timelines are taking much, much longer than ever before, which is frustrating for some of our clients. One of our clients is in a sales process at the moment, and she had a CQC in last week. It's good for her because our current home is in RI and we're hoping that we'll get the rating up before she sells. But it just makes the process take a lot longer.
Yeah, and actually new providers, what we're finding is new providers are taking a long time to get
approved.
That first inspection as well, and the actual registration process is slower than it has been.
Yeah.
Which hopefully doesn't impact on those people living in the care homes. So tell me about the future. So the future for you, and then the future for our industry.
Yeah. So for me, something I've really enjoyed over the last couple of years is I've made a really big effort to become much more integrated in the social care world with other professionals like Fulcrum or accountants or investment people that work within the world. And that support network for someone working within care is absolutely essential and something that I didn't do, say, 10 years ago. So I want to do more of that. I want to meet more like-minded people so we can discuss things, bounce ideas off people. For my clients, my goal is to kind of be there throughout the whole journey. So they may not want to sell now, but they want to sell 5-10 years time, and it's helping them get to their goals. That's my aim to do.
Yeah, and I think when you are going to be selling a care business, it's a very long process, isn't it? And certainly when people are retiring.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting to that sort of age when I'm thinking of a future of retirement, and I think you do. Or maybe next year, or maybe the year after, maybe the year after that. And when you've got that care business, if you haven't got family to hand it down to that want to have it handed down to them, it's a big challenge. So you've got to be there right from the beginning.
Yeah, it's all about succession planning a lot of the time, and even if it's not family, it's who's your next registered manager, who's the young people coming up, who's going to take this home forwards for you.
Very interesting to talk to you, Jade, as always, and we're very happy to be involved and to support you whenever you need support from our side. Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.